So what was life like? So what was life like before you got clean?
It was kind of messy. It was, if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be self-centered, if that's one word or if that's two, I don't really know. But that's what it was like. Fear, I guess, was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. A lot of that was because of trying to manage all those little lies, you know, like it just seemed like every situation had to benefit me just a little bit more than the next guy. So it was very self-centered and very fear-ridden, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So what happened? Like what brought you into recovery?
Well, you know, there was a series of things. One of the biggest traumatic events that really escalated my drinking, which was part of bringing me to recovery, because I had to hit that, you know, so-called bottom that everybody talks about. Mm-hmm. And it was three of us, you know, set out on our motorcycles one day. There was me, my dad, and my cousin. And, you know, of course alcohol was involved, and only two of us came back that day. And so being a part of that and having to, you know, witness that really, really escalated my drinking from that point on. Mm-hmm. And that's when, you know, my marriage, it just seemed my addiction stepped into the next phase right after that. My marriage started to fall apart. My lies became more. It seemed like, you know, I'm really getting ahead of myself, I guess, but a lot of my drinking stemmed from low self-esteem. And my low self-esteem, I believe, stemmed from my diagnosis of ADHD. That, you know, I was always told I was bad. I was always the kid sitting out in the hallway. And I had to build this fake persona that I didn't let it bother me, but it really did. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I would use both alcohol and relationships with other women to help build my self-esteem. And when my extramarital affairs came crashing down, that's when it was time for me to take a good look in the mirror and think, you know what, this person that I'm trying to wear a mask and prove to everybody that I am does not jive with what I'm actually doing. And so it was, yeah, my wife and kids had left me and things were really falling apart. So it was time to surrender, really. You know, that was the point where I was like, I can't handle this. I can't manage this. I can't be in control of this because I'm making a damn mess. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of what brought me into recovery.
Yeah. So did you ever find that, like, did you realize at the time that you thought you needed something else to be who you are?
You mean when I was actively drinking? Oh yeah. Like I really did need something, some outside, whatever you want to call it, to give me some sort of boost or some sort of, like, to help me feel more
like you thought everyone else wanted you to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of a codependent thing in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it is. So, so how did you change your thought processes? Like, what was the first thing that you realized that needed to change?
That's a good question. The first thing I realized that needed to change, I guess, was my thought processes. It took a long time to really change my thought process, and there was many different, like, layers. As I worked the steps, I peel layers off, my thought process would change a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'd work the steps again, peel another layer off, my thought process would change. So it was very small, you know, gradual turns. Like Bill Wilson talks about, that it can be this big brought on spiritual awakening, or it can happen slowly. And for me, it happened slowly. Yeah. And so it was just step by step by step. It was more than just the steps, you know, it was learning about energy work and, like Reiki and access consciousness, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That really helped change my perspective too. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was just a combination of, you know, all the little things put together that had brought about my recovery.
So when you would have these awakenings, or these layers of the onion would fall off, did you ever think, wow, this is exactly what I thought this would feel like? Or was it like something like you didn't even see coming?
Yeah, no, it was something I didn't even see coming.
I never see it coming.
No, I don't think I could have predicted it, you know? Yeah. It really was, you know, all those little things, like when I made amends to the man whose wife I was having an affair with, that was one of those moments when the layer came off.
How did that go?
That was scary as hell, man. That was one of the most dreaded amends I had to make.
Well, you're still sitting here, so
yeah,
couldn't have gone that bad.
and you know what? It took 6 years to happen. I really wanted it to happen, and through mutual friends, it was told to me, no, that's gonna injure others, so don't make that amend. And okay, and the whole time I didn't make that amend, I was fearful to see that person in public. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And so it was kind of funny how it all came down. I took this guy to a meeting for the first time, and it was a guy from Kinnersley. And so I took him to a meeting, and I thought to myself, I had this funny feeling in my stomach that...
You took him to a meeting? Like, he reached out to you?
Yeah, he reached out to me to get some help, and I took him to his first meeting in Kinnersley.
Okay.
And this was a meeting that I had kind of stayed away from because I knew that this guy also went to this meeting, if that makes sense. It was the Friday night meeting. Anyway, I had this funny feeling in my tummy that he was going to be there. And I thought, whatever, you know what? If he's there, I'll deal with it. And so sure enough, we walked in, and I sat down, and I was like, okay, he's not here, right?
Yeah.
2 seconds later, he walked in.
Ah, fuck.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, my heart just starts pounding, right? And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Okay, so I kind of, said a little prayer to myself. And I'm like, God, if this is my time to make this amend, give me the courage to do it, because I'm crapping myself right now. And so, all the signs were there. Not only was it, did he show up in that meeting, the topic of the meeting was step 9.
No.
And the daily reading was about step 9.
Oh, man.
And so, yeah, after the meeting, we walked out, and I said to the guy that I was with, just give me a minute, I got something I got to do. And
so hang on. Is he still with his wife during this time? Like when you're about to say this to him?
yes.
Okay.
Yep, he is still with her. They
Does
stayed
he
together.
know that this happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he does know this happened, and he was far too, he didn't want to hear it from me. He didn't want to hear I'm sorry. So I approached him, and I said, you know what? I have something I need to do. We were friends, and I betrayed you, and I apologize for that. And he took it very well, and from what I've heard, from people outside of, or within the meeting, and even outside, that it's made a real impact in his life that I did that. And it has in mine too. I'm not afraid anymore when I go out to see him, because I know that I could look at him and smile and say hi.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the biggest chunks of layer of onion that came off, was when I got to do that.
Yeah.
And that was not easy. I'll tell you.
I've found that when I've made big amends, in my experience, I've expected the clouds to part and just everything to, it's like New Year's Eve. When 12 o'clock strikes, you expect things to somehow be different.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Was it different for you, like in that moment, or was it like, I'm still Tanner?
Well, it was, like I said, that fear that I don't want to see this person lifted. It no longer plagued me inside.
Yeah.
And so it was one of the greatest things that I could do for myself and for him. And so in that regard, yes, I did feel a little different, but it wasn't, I didn't feel like a new person. I felt like I had did the right thing. And the person that I took to the meeting got to witness it. He got to see the program in action. And I think it made a big impact on him too. So it really is in working with other people that I've learned more about my recovery than having a sponsor work with me. Yeah. Like it's almost like I gotta live up to what I'm saying here. I can't just tell the person to do this. I have to show them how.
Yeah. So what are some things that you do these days to maintain your recovery? And what have you done up to this point?
Yeah, I've went to some sort of meeting just about every week since, April 2014. And it went from AA to RU recovery, which is more of a faith-based program. And now I do both. I run a 12-step meeting at Possibilities on Tuesday, and I take my RU meeting online on Zoom on Thursdays. And then I'm always working with people. That was part of my motivation to start Possibilities. Was I started working with a sponsee, and I thought, hey, this is a full-time job. Like, I can't do a full-time job and this at the same time to do it effectively, because I'm the kind of guy that it's all or nothing, right? And so I thought, well, I don't really like my job that I'm at in the oil field. I don't like the toxicity of that environment. So I thought I got to make a way to work with sponsees all the time and make a living doing it. And so that's kind of where possibilities came from, and are one of the founding thoughts, I guess. That
So there's a meeting at Possibilities every Tuesday?
there is, and it's just for our clients.
Oh, okay.
And it's not affiliated with AA, we just do 12-step, so
Okay.
that they can get a feel for what a 12-step meeting
That's
is
interesting
like.
that you don't label it. I like that.
Yeah, it's just not to segregate any.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like to hear everybody's story outside of alcohol, drugs. I like to hear it all.
It's funny how the stigma attached to labels can prevent people from getting what it turns out they actually need.
Yeah,
You know?
that was actually one of the reasons I stopped going to AA for a while. Was I kind of had it out in a roundup meeting. I wanted to involve NA with our AA roundup.
Oh, that's an outside issue.
Yeah, we had like
I
two
know.
people in NA that always came to our meetings, and they tried to start their own little meeting, and it was struggling. And I thought, you know what? Let's involve them. Let's see if they can get an NA speaker to come. No way. And that, I guess, my ego flared up right there, because I walked out and let my ego get in between me and AA, and
Yeah.
took me a bit to let it.
You know,
Calm down.
Sometimes I struggle with what I think is my ego and what is actually right and what I am justified in feeling and doing.
That's a good
know.
point. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like, you know, and I've been told that, no, you did the right thing, but I'm like, was that ego or was that not? You know,
Right.
it's hard to draw that line sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to be passionate about things. It's okay to be angry about things.
Right.
You know, so that's something I've been struggling with actually more recently.
Yeah.
But back to Tanner. So, okay, we already sort of talked about what drove you to start Possibilities.
Yeah.
What are some personal challenges that you faced in getting the recovery center going?
Well, I guess two challenges that stand out are the challenges of finances. Yeah, it was really tough to figure out. There's one one of the traditions of AA that problems of money, property, prestige will divert us from our primary purpose, bounces through my mind all the time.
Yeah.
And so I knew at some point, if we set that up as a for-profit, that money would divert us from our primary purpose. And so we set it up as a non-profit in the beginning, and that created more challenges for financing. I thought it would be easier that way, but it wasn't. And banks didn't want to finance. Nobody wanted to do anything until someone was willing to take a chance.
Yeah.
And that someone was GDI, Gabriel Dumont Institute. They, because Kayla's Métis, she qualified for a bunch of their program subsidization, and they gave us the initial funding, which kind of sparked the next event and the next event, and it kind of went from there.
Yeah, I found that myself. Nobody wants to fund you until somebody else funds you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It is challenging to get going, but
Yeah.
my advice to it is, be persistent.
Yeah.
And be kind all along the way. Like, if you're kind and persistent, it'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be how it's meant to be.
Yeah. And the other part, I guess, so that was finances was challenge one. And the other was balancing work and home life, because me and my wife started it together.
Yeah.
We were, it was okay when we were living in two separate towns. She was here, I was in Kindersley. We had time apart.
Yeah.
Now we're together 24/7, and
you
it's
bring it home and that's what you talk about.
Yeah,
eat,
and then
sleep.
yeah,
Yeah.
get fighting with one another about something, and it should be left at work, and it's
Yeah.
not. And
Oh, and
that's
another thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't go to sleep tonight until we figure this out.
Good supper, but I'm still angry.
Exactly. So that's been a challenge too, but it's also what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, and
Yeah. So they say.
so they say. Yeah.
So, how does employing people with lived experience help the people that come into your program?
Lived experience just seems to have, it's like a training that you just can't train, it's you can't learn that in school, and it really gives you a whole different perspective and a whole different level of grace almost, but grace within boundaries, like you give people lots of chances, but with lived experience, you almost know, like, you can't bullshit the bullshitter, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, that's a good way to explain how someone with lived experience can ultimately,
Well,
help more.
They bring that wisdom in finding a solid root in reality.
Yeah.
That's what I've found. They call you on your shit. That's such a common cliche that you hear around the recovery circles. Oh, he called him on his shit, you know.
Yeah.
And that's based in finding your roots in the reality of the world around you.
Right.
You know, and people with lived experience like us that have not only lived that life, but have lived the life getting out of it, and lived the life like I've achieved things now, you know, and I know the struggle that it takes to get there, you know? And it's not easy.
Yeah. So. And the mindsets and the temptations that continually come up,
and the resilience, you know, and so many people think that, oh, he put the dope down, he's good now.
Right.
But it takes years, man. And in your ad that runs on my show, you talk about the aftercare.
Yeah.
You know, and how it's important to stay with a person and to maintain that contact with the person when they move out into the real world.
Right. Yeah, because you know all the shortcomings that you've brought attention to and kind of started to work towards reducing, now all of a sudden they're flared up by the challenges in real life, and oh my God, now this is a lot of this is real. I got no help.
Yeah.
Who do I turn to?
I can handle this in this nice little safety recovery bubble, but when I get out in the real world where there's triggers and people that get angry with me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Or my spouse that you know is forever on my case, or so that aftercare is important.
Yeah. So is there anything you'd like to say to anybody out there that may be watching and struggling this morning?
Well, I guess I would just say you're worth it. It's possible. There is somebody out there to help you. There's guys like us that are willing to help, willing to tell you how we did it. And don't suffer in silence. Right on, man. Well, thanks for being here tonight. Yeah, thank you. Hey, that was right on. Okay, well, let's hope everything worked. This one's still recording. Yeah, this one is too. Yes! Should I stop it? Yeah.